Welcome to the Booze Free Babes podcast for women breaking free from booze and stepping into their full potential. Join our sober sisterhood as we share stories, insights, and tips to help you thrive in your booze-free journey. Let's get bold, authentic, and booze-free together, babes. What's up? What's up? Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Booze Free Babes podcast. Today, I've got a longtime friend of mine, Jill, on. She's going to share a little bit about her journey and her path that she's walking now, which is super exciting. She's got some fun stuff on the horizon that we're going to chat about too. So, Jill, what is up? Thank you so much for being on the show today. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for the invite. I appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. So a little backstory on Jill. You guys don't know. I've known Jill since the late 2000s. She's definitely a part of my Myrtle Beach era, I'll say. And you're still living in Myrtle Beach, right?
I am. Yep.
Awesome. We actually worked together back in the late 2000s. So it's beautiful to see these relationships that I've had throughout my life come back into my life. So what's interesting about our relationship is that we've rekindled since we both have gotten sober. And so that's really exciting that now I get to walk this journey with you too. So tell us a little bit about what was that motivation to get you to decide to live a sober life?
Well, I've been drinking. I was drinking a long time, when you start drinking back when you're a teenager. And then, of course, just you party that whole party time and you just move on and you just continue socially drinking. And it's just this huge social thing, right? But then it kind of took a little bit more of a turn for me. I had a major life event that happened that really shook my world. And then I started drinking a lot more. Would I call myself an alcoholic? Maybe, I don't know. I was functional alcoholic for sure, like many of us, right? So I drank for a lot of years to suppress that major life event that just created shame for me. Other people might not have agreed for me to take that feeling on that do know the story, but I did. I felt a lot of shame, and shame is a big driver to hide behind, as many know. And so drinking also caused a lot of challenges in my life with my children. I look back and I think, God, I wish I would have chosen this journey a lot sooner, right? Something happened with my youngest son that made me take a hard look at what I was doing. At the same time, I had a health situation come into play. I was diabetic. I became diabetic. And so those two items said, okay, I'm going to stop drinking. I want to see first off if it's going to help with my numbers of my blood work and my health. And then also I was going to show everybody. I didn't tell anybody I was going to quit drinking. I was going to show it. I was going to prove it that I could do it. And I just made a decision July 5th, 2022, I think it was, that I was going to not talk about it, right? I'm not going to say, oh, I'm getting sober. I was just going to show it and do it. And that's what I did.
That is phenomenal. And thank you for sharing that. I didn't realize that you had a couple of things that had happened there. I've known Jill for a while, so I definitely was a part of that life event. And so I think when we lean into that shame and that guilt that we all can experience, like we all have some piece of that from something, right? And that's what can keep us in those repetitive patterns of drinking to soothe shame and guilt or to hide or run from it. So I know that we chatted about this briefly before, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about what your journey looks like today. I know that you have a huge focus on self-care, and that's been a very big driving force. And then I think that you had also mentioned some projects you have coming up with your kids. So let's chat about that too.
Sure. First, I think it's important to talk about when you first get sober, some of the things that you might experience. And maybe you experience this too, Ellen, and I'm sure it's different for everybody, right? But for me, when I first chose to get sober, I hit a depression. I hit like a major depression of I knew that it was my body detoxing from the alcohol. And I had to keep reminding myself of that. Like, this isn't real. I had to do a lot of self-talk, a lot of kind of meditation of like, these aren't real feelings. Work through it. You're going to get through it. It's going to be okay. Just wait. So I just kept going because I felt like my body was trying to say, hey, you should have that drink. You've been drinking for so many years of your life, socially or whatnot. So I think my body was just like, hey, what are you doing here? And I hit this depression. And I'm like, no, I have to start doing some things for myself to get out of that and realize that was not the truth. My mind was not telling me the truth. So I started walking. Walking is such a great way. It was good for my diabetes and it was just good for my mental health. Listening to some different podcasts, of course, anything that was uplifting, helpful, whatever, to just get my mind off of anything with being sober and becoming stronger. And then I really just believe in the self-care of, hey, I need a facial, I need a massage, I need to just meet up with a girlfriend and just talk things out. And I think that's really, really important. Whatever makes you feel happy, you should do.
I love that. Finding joy in every day. I love that, like, philosophy. And that's something that my therapist talks about, is that I need to find the joy in every day, right? So I want to just go backwards a little bit, because you had shared about the emotional experience that you had in early sobriety. And that's something that we don't chat about often enough. And I too had an emotional roller coaster when I first got sober. And I equate that to the fact that we've pushed our emotions down for so long, or at least this was my experience. I'll share that. I feel like I pushed my emotions down for so long because they're so big, and that I didn't want to feel those big emotions. And that's why I drank to begin with. That's just part of my human design. I'm a projector with emotional authority, so I lead with emotion. And I don't know if I had depression per se, but I definitely had a huge array of emotions, and learning to navigate that sober was just really wild for me. So I love that you shared that piece, because it is a part of the journey to learn how to manage our emotions sober is a big piece. That's a big component. And the self-care piece, I just love that you leaned heavily into finding joy for yourself, and finding joy in every day is a way that we can navigate those big emotions. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah. I think it's really, really important. We've been avoiding our emotions for so long with drinking. And for me, I had to navigate in my own mind of the lies that I had been telling myself for years. It wasn't the truth, right? And even getting sober, thinking, oh, I'm going to lose my friends, or they're not going to understand. That's not true either. Not one friend of mine cares if I drink or don't drink. I still go to social things because my friends continue to drink, and that's okay too. There's nothing wrong with that. My husband drinks. There's nothing wrong with that. And I can still go and be social. For me, it's okay to go and be social, and I just don't drink, and not one person cares. They're like, hey, great. Good for you, Jill. Whatever you need to do, which is fantastic. And I think that we need to then realize in our own minds that, hey, this isn't exactly what I thought it was going to be, and it's all okay. But I am a firm believer that we don't all experience the same things, and whatever works for you, whatever you decide to do, works for you, and it's okay. And if it's not working, then you just find a new way. You just adapt and do something different and try another way. Keep trying till it works.
Oh, I love that. And it really sings to the fact that we do have multi-pathways to recovery. And one way is not always the best way, or one size doesn't fit all. And everybody has their own life experience and their own journey and their own approach to their recovery. I've been very fortunate, as you have, that I've been able to maintain some of those friendships that I've had for a long period of time. And then I've also had these other beautiful friendships that I've had for a long period of time that have evolved in a new way, because we're both walking a new sober path, just like our friendship has grown just recently, reconnecting and growing in a new way, which I think is really beautiful.
I really think that we should be gentle with ourselves, right? As women, a lot of times we put everybody first. Many times we put everybody first, or we're always thinking about others. And I just hope that women in particular start giving themselves permissions to put themselves first. That's what I started doing with my self-care. I decided that I too am important. I too can have these feelings and do things for self-care to get through whatever it is I need to get through. We're always so willing to help other people. I've helped other people my whole life, listening or whatever, and putting them even before my own needs. And just getting sober, I have just decided that I'm okay to be first sometimes too. It's just okay.
It is definitely okay. And I love that you've learned that you know what your needs are. And right now, in this moment, you're putting yourself first and catering to those needs. And so, can you walk us through what a morning routine might look like for you as far as self-care goes?
I don't really have a morning routine for self-care because, as you well know, I do work a lot and I love what I do. So that's great. But I do keep at the forefront of like walking or podcasts or meditating or finding a book, even if it's not a book about self-care or anything like that. It could just be a book that I'm enjoying. I just try to make myself a priority throughout the week, even getting my hair done, or just like I said, scheduling a massage. But really the exercise is so good for you mentally, and it doesn't have to be anything exhausting. All I do is walk. I just put my headphones in, listen to some great music, or just anything. Sometimes I even dance it out. If I'm feeling a little low in my bedroom alone, I'll be like, I'm going to put something on and dance it out, because when you move your body, it changes the way you feel. It literally changes the way you feel. So if you just even run in place or dance it out for a minute in private or not in private, it doesn't matter. Just move your body, because it changes the way you think.
Impromptu dance parties, man. That's the best. That's the jam, right? That is awesome.
Dance it out.
Those are some great tips. When in doubt, dance it out, you guys. Those are some great freaking tips. I love it. Okay, so I'm a huge Deadhead fan for those that did not know. And I always do dance parties in the kitchen. Like, that's my jam. But you did hit on movement. And I think movement is a big component to this self-care journey too, and to sobriety. I think a lot of people, when they get sober, they lean really heavily into working out or physical fitness and pushing their bodies. But it sounds to me like what you're doing, which is similar to my journey, is easing into movement, right? Like, I don't need to bust out into this new 4 a.m. workout right away because I chose to get sober today. No, what I can do is ease into my body with movement and do something that aligns with my body, how it is today, right? And I found that through yoga. I know you found that through walking. So I think it's important to find whatever that movement is that's going to work best with your body.
I totally agree. As I get older, those hard workouts just don't feel as good to me. So walking is what works for me. I can go at my own pace and just breathe deep, and it's just what works for me. And journaling too. I don't know. Do you journal, Ellen?
Oh my goodness. Okay. Journaling is not my first step. I mean, that's just not the first thing that I want to do for self-care, but I know when I do it, and especially if I do like automatic writing where I just write down whatever and just let it flow, it's really helpful in gaining clarity. And I've actually recently done an exercise with one of my girlfriends. She walked us through this intuitive writing exercise, and maybe we'll do that one time in a workshop for the babes. But it's basically where you ask yourself a question that you want to gain clarity on, but you ask yourself 3 times, because the first time you ask it, all that surface level BS gets out of the way. The second time you ask it, you get through another layer of BS. By the third time you ask yourself that question, you're getting to some crystal clear content, right?
I love that because I didn't even think about that. And I don't journal all the time, but when things come up, I start to write. I start to write it down a little bit. Like, what is it that I really want? And it's helpful. And then I might not journal for a week, and then I'll come back to it, reread what I wrote, and be like, yeah, I need to get back to that.
I have a funny story for you. You know, the Starbucks that we met at when we reconnected?
Yeah.
Little hippie shop behind it. So I went in there in early sobriety and they did readings. And of course, I'm like reaching for every cure all be all, right? As it's kind of a part of the journey. I think you have to just explore different things. And so I had a reading with her and she recommended that I get a journal. And it was so ironic because my mom had just gifted me a journal like that weekend. And she suggested that I fill that journal with everything that I want, all my hopes, dreams, wishes, desires. And it was probably a 100-page journal. And she was like, fill it up. Don't put any notes in there. Don't put anything in there that is work related. Just fill it up with your hopes, dreams, wishes, desires, all the yummy stuff that you want out of life. And I'll be damned if I didn't, right? I didn't fill it up all the way because, you know, I'm not going to complete a journal. But but I did start that task and just doing something small. And you might think it's insignificant like that, but writing down one dream, one little thing, it just opens up the possibility and it tells the universe, hey, this is something that I'm interested in exploring. And it just creates the groundwork. It just creates a little pathway that could eventually be walked down or explored further. And so I don't know if that's something you've done with your journaling exercise, but I'd love to empower you to try it.
I actually have. So I worked with a business coach for a little while who's fantastic. And she said, Jill, I want you to write down exactly what you want. Not what you think other people want for you, exactly what you want. It doesn't have to do with anything that you're doing right now. What is it that you really, truly want? And write it down. And I did. And I still read that. I'm still going for that. And I think it's important. And we can have dreams and we can have ideas. And maybe it won't happen tomorrow, but it's going to happen. And I keep reading it and I'm going to make sure it happens.
I think this is a great segue for us to tell us about this new project that you're wanting to embark on with your daughter.
So my daughter, she's my youngest daughter. She's almost 21. She is a little bit introverted, but she wanted to possibly try something with me. And we were talking about creating a podcast ourselves around mental health and the challenges that the young adults have with their anxieties and different things like that. And even some of the challenges that adults have and how you navigate it and just between the generations and not just about mental health, just differences between the generations. She thought maybe that might help her even come a little bit out of her being introverted and thought it would be some fun. So we're in the midst of creating that, thinking about it, putting some ideas down on paper, and we're really excited about it.
That's so exciting because I just have one question. Of course, we all love our children and want to go into their dreams and stuff with them, of course. But my question is, do you feel like you would have taken on a project like that if you were still drinking?
No. Well, first off, when my two younger kids, as they were growing up, was in the throes that I drank a lot. I didn't neglect them, of course, right? But it's different when you're buzzed all the time. You're not paying as much of attention. It does break my heart to think about what I gave up with them during some times where they were navigating their own situations, right? Even though I was there, I wasn't there. And I can't even imagine from their perspective what it was like to have me as a mother during that time. So I'm pretty sure she wouldn't have wanted to do that with me, honestly. And so I feel actually very honored that she would want to do that with me now. But no, I wouldn't have probably been in a place, or it would have been a different kind of way of doing it.
Love the beauty of the answer, because being a person in long-term recovery, my biggest gift is that I've repaired relationships within my own family. And that is so important to me because in my drinking career, I was very selfish, right? And I feel like I didn't put those important relationships first. And then as we progress in life and age and you start losing family members, you realize how important those relationships were all along that maybe we took for granted. And so the biggest gift in my own sobriety is how I've been able to repair some of those relationships within my family. And I get to experience those relationships today. So I think it's really beautiful and a testament to the growth and the nurturing that you get to have in your relationship with your children today.
Yeah, because when you are in it, right? When you're drinking, you think everything's okay. You think that life is just going on and I'm working and I am being a parent and a mother and all those things. But when you get sober and start talking about those hard conversations, you realize, oh, it's not what I thought it was. And that's the past, right? You can't change that. You can't change that. You can only change today. You can only change today and tomorrow and how you're going to show up for the rest of your life. That's all you can do. You can apologize and think about, like, I wish I would have done this sooner. I wish I would have started sooner. I wish I would have done that differently. But the facts are the facts. You didn't. And we can only go from today. And that's what kind of keeps me going as well. I'm lucky in the sense that I know we've talked about this before, that people are like, oh, you can have just one. So I don't wake up every day saying I need to stay sober. I just choose it every day. I do not say that I'll never drink again. I don't know if I'll drink again or not. I just keep choosing to not drink. And I like the way I feel. My health is so much better. So I don't say I'll never drink again. I think that's helpful. I think when we put parameters on things, but people say, well, you could have one drink. Yes, I could have one drink, but I drank for the buzz, right? One drink's not going to give me a buzz. And I choose not to have one drink. I don't ever want to wake up again being hungover and feeling just like I need to eat a ton, sleep a ton because I feel like crap. I don't ever want to have that feeling again. I just don't. So I continue to choose not to drink.
That's one of the things, not that I'm going to beat myself up for it for the rest of my life, but it's something that I definitely think about as all of those hours and days wasted on the couch because I was hungover. I'll never get that time back. And maybe that's why I'm going full steam ahead now. I don't know, but I just feel like I've spent so much time in my life feeling like crap that I really want to feel my best for the rest of my life. That's what you and I were sharing together, right? Because at this stage of our life, we're already halfway there.
Right. Like that's what I was saying to you before. The first half of my life, well, not of course when I was little, but I went through buzzed and partying. So let's see what it's like being sober for the rest of my life. And how does that feel? And I'm still discovering things about myself. And maybe you experienced this, I'm not sure, but you wonder as you get sober, okay, what do I do? What do I do this weekend? What do I do tonight? Because it was all around like going out and having drinks with the girls, going out and having drinks with your friends, going out to dinner and having drinks, having people over and having drinks. Especially in the beginning, it's like, wow, being sober is so different and everything just seems to go around drinking. What do you do? And some days I still struggle with that and I'll figure it out.
That's definitely a lot of the reason why I created Booze Free Babes. I wanted to create a community of other like-minded women that I could go do social things with. And that's kind of how we started out. And then it just blew up from there. And I hear you. I think when we first get sober, it's like, wow, I've got all this amazing energy because I feel good. And then also we have all this amazing free time because, well, my experience, I wasn't sitting at the edge of a bar, right? So like, there's all this extra time in the day for all these other activities that I can explore. But for early sobriety, I think it's really important to find a network and to find some sober sisters that you can hang out with and can share some time with you and explore new activities. I feel like I didn't start investigating who I am inside until probably the pandemic, but not even at the beginning of the pandemic, like the end of 2021, when I started therapy and taking those deep dives into my own self. Why do I do these things? Why do I show up this way? What is it that I'm running from? What am I afraid of? Why do I drink to mask all these big emotions that I'm too terrified to experience in their full essence? So I feel like I didn't really even start getting to know myself until my late 40s. And now the person that I am today is a completely different version of myself that I was even 5 or 10 years ago.
Yeah. That's exciting though, right? We have a lifetime to experience, and we can create our life any way we want to. And even in 10 years from now, you could be another totally different person, and hopefully for the better, of course. But it's amazing to think about that no matter how you have spent your past, you can create who you are over and over again. You just got to keep trying, right? You just keep going and you keep trying, one foot in front of the other, and just adapting and learning more and more about yourself and how you do want to show up and who you want to be. And just because you weren't that person a month ago doesn't mean today and tomorrow you can't be that person or a new person. It's amazing.
I absolutely agree with that. And I'm just going to share one other thought on that. And that is the importance of loving all versions of me. I think I had to get to that place because, yeah, have I had some shitty behavior in my drinking career? Abso-freaking-lutely. But I have to love that version of me too, because that version, maybe she wasn't healed to the point that I am today, but I still have to love and nurture her because she's still a part of me. And so today, when I talk about loving me, I also throw in, I want to love all versions of me, past, future, and present.
And I appreciate you saying that because, it allows us to give our own selves permissions and a great reminder to love all versions of me. Because believe me, I didn't love the version of me that I lived with the shame of the situation for a lot of years. And then the regret, right? The regret of allowing that who I was back then and allowing that to even happen. There was just so much going on in my life and how I chose to handle that. But now to be able to say, I can love myself even at my lowest point is okay. So I appreciate you saying that because I forget that sometimes. I'm a whole new person, and that experience allowed me to become who I am today, and I'm going to keep going on that. But you forget sometimes because, of course, you kind of want to stuff that down maybe in a different way, not with drinking, of like, I can't believe I did that for so many years and I was like that for so many years. Does that make sense?
It absolutely makes sense. And I loved that version of Jill, and I love this version of Jill too. So I just want to say that I love all versions of you. And somebody had to tell me that too, because I didn't love all versions of me. And there are definitely days that I show up in this perimenopausal body that's just going crazy that I'm like,
about that, girl.
What is happening? I think we should start a whole other podcast just about perimenopause. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I think there's some out there actually.
I need to start listening to that.
Yeah, I don't want to forget to touch base on this because I think it's really important, Ellen. I know that we talked about a bit of just being healthier and exercising, but when you stop drinking, whoa, the changes. I'm not even kidding. So with having diabetes, I have to get my blood work every 3 months. And prior to that, my blood work wasn't so great. My fatty liver, I was overweight, I had a lot of inflammation, and my blood work is amazing. I see pictures of me from a few years ago versus now. It's like, who is that person? That's crazy, the difference of just the inflammation that goes away. It's crazy. That should motivate anybody to do it, honestly.
So I started a weight loss journey around the same time that I got sober. I'll share about that in a different podcast. But since then, I've lost almost 100 pounds. And I have to say that the inflammation piece is huge. And my husband is on his journey now. And so we're navigating through some of that. And the inflammation piece is real. If you take a picture and you do a side by side, while I was inactive drinking heavily versus now, I mean, it's a night and day difference. I don't even look like the same human being. And you sent me your headshot, and I was like, we're not using that old headshot. That is way outdated. You don't even look like that person anymore.
My skin's different. Everything, like, it's just my face. Everything's totally different. And it's amazing. And that part I do love.
I just want to let you know that you look so radiant and healthy, and you're just beaming and glowing. And I know everybody out there in podcast land that's listening to this instead of watching it on YouTube, you can't see how radiant she is. But if you get an opportunity, hop over to the YouTube channel so you can check it out. And it's just been such a freaking honor to be your friend and to reconnect with you and to walk this journey together. So
I appreciate you. I love reconnecting with you. When you were posting about being sober, when I saw a couple of those, remember that? I'm like, hey, I've been sober too. And it was like, wow, another one of my friends that are on this journey too. That's helpful. It's helpful to find those women. So I love it. I love you. So I really appreciate all that you've done for the platform and reaching out to everybody and creating the Booze Free Babes. I love it. It's very helpful. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. This mission is definitely guiding itself. It's taken on a life of its own, and I'm just the conduit. And it's a great honor for me to be able to be in this position. And I just recently got my recovery coaching certification. I graduated on Tuesday. So
hey, good job. That's awesome.
I'm excited to see what the next direction of this whole journey takes, but I also feel like having that foundation makes conversations like this a lot more helpful. I feel like just guiding the conversation and being able to offer helpful feedback and resources is something that I didn't feel as empowered to do in season 1. And this is episode 1 of season 2. So I feel like what we're going to see in a content perspective may take a different shift, which is really exciting to see.
That is exciting.
So how about wrapping us up with any helpful tips for somebody that's new on their journey? They're like, where do I go next? What do I do? Give us some takeaway tips to wrap us up today.
Well, I think if you're new on your journey, for sure, when your mind is racing and saying all these things, remind yourself that might not be true. Could be a lie. We tell ourselves things all the time that are not true. They're just literally not true. So I challenge you to say, that's not true. And I'm going to get up and get moving. That's when I used to go for my walks and listen to great music or whatever makes me happy. I think it's really important to just remind yourself that it's going to be okay. You are safe. This is the best thing for you. Keep going. Keep going. Day at a time.
That is freaking beautiful. And thank you so much, Jill, for coming on the show today and for giving us that little segue and tidbit at the end, helpful information for any new babes on this journey. Thank you so much for being here.
Love you, girl. Thank you.
Love you. All right, babes, that's a wrap on this week's episode of the Booze Free Babes podcast. To learn more about the Booze Free Babes, check us out online at boozefreebabes.co. You can also find us on Instagram at Booze Free Babes Podcast. If you're interested in joining our private Facebook group, we invite you to do so. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.